Today's conversation is all about money, but not in the way you might expect. Most of us were taught that money decisions are logical. Budget the numbers, follow the rules, and things will work out. But the truth is, money isn't just math. It's memory, emotion, identity, and often the stories we absorbed long before we ever got our first paycheck. Scarcity mindset doesn't just show up in our bank accounts. It shapes how we lead, how we negotiate, how we price our work, and sometimes even how we decide what we believe we deserve. Today, we're talking about how those early money stories follow us into adulthood and how we can recognize when we're making decisions from old fear instead of present day clarity. Welcome to Deals with Heels. I'm Debra, your host. Today's guest is Linda Grisely, a financial wellness educator, speaker, and former CFP who helps people make sense of money without shame, jargon, or pretending it's just math. Linda brings a deeply human lens to financial conversations, exploring the emotional and behavioral patterns that quietly shape our financial lives. She's also the host of the podcast Real Life. I don't know if I
Real
got
money,
that name
real
right.
life. Yep.
The Money Real Life. Okay. Linda, welcome to the show. I'm so happy to have you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Deborah. I'm looking forward to this conversation.
We talk about scarcity mindset on the show quite a bit because I have found that my clients, my friends, my colleagues, myself, it creeps in. It creeps in. We don't even realize what's happening, and it's in there in so many different ways. And I'm excited to have an expert on the show to really dive into the emotional baggage that is kind of invisible in their getting us, dragging us back into old ways. So let's start talking a little bit about your personal journey, rebuilding your financial confidence.
Sure. So, gosh, my financial journey is a maze. Not amazing, but a maze of lots of little roadblocks and things. But um, I started out as a teen mom, single teen mom, struggling like from day one. And I think having grown up in a household that where my parents lived paycheck to paycheck and then being immediately into that really just shaped my feelings and beliefs around money very early. So that carried with me throughout life, right? Through being married and actually having money at one point and then getting divorced and having to rebuild and starting over from scarcity again, like being behind and trying to figure it out. I've lived a lot of financial stories throughout my life. And it wasn't until I don't know, after I entered into the world of financial services when I actually figured out like this whole mindset piece of money. So it was living through all of that, realizing about personal growth, becoming a professional in financial services, and then discovering through my clients like the mindsets and the obstacles that the things they were telling themselves. And then me reframing that and thinking about my own stories was like the key to it all. So it's an ongoing process. It never ends.
It never does. Your journey's similar to mine. I grew up with a single mom who was a nurse, and there was a lot of scarcity at times during my childhood. And there were times where I was scared to ask for something because I didn't want it to affect money or to make my mom upset or for her to, that oldest child kind of responsibility thing or oldest daughter. That is. And having money, being out of college and making good money for the first time and feeling that independence and then really losing it all. My ex-husband gambled our entire life savings away before we divorced. So I've lived that with you, this kind of similar pattern, and have talked about that on the show as well. And I think it's hard for people to understand what scarcity mindset is, even though we define it. Can you talk about what it looks like in the real world with decision making?
Yeah, scarcity mindset, it can show up a lot of different ways. It shows up in decision making when we make decisions based out of fear. So that could be, it could be accepting a job that maybe isn't going to pay you as much as you think you're worth because you just need a job. And there's a difference between scarcity being like, yeah, sometimes you have to suck it up and just get a job, any job, but that would be like accepting a job when you know that you're worth more, or maybe you don't even know that you're worth more. Not necessarily a survival type of job. But I think that the idea behind it is that when you have this fear around money and the need for money, and it's so overwhelming that it puts you in this place of vibration, so to speak, that you have like this aura of just scarcity around money. And it takes some inner work to look inside and notice it when it's happening so that you can start to reframe it.
For me as an entrepreneur, it would come out how I priced my services sometimes, right? So, and I see it often in my clients. I have a client right now, and I told her, you need to triple your price. You need to triple your price. No one is going to, they think it's a scam. No one thinks you can do what you can do for the price that you can do it. It's so much more valuable than that. And she prices from a place of, this is what I could have afforded instead of what my potential customers can afford and the value that it brings. So for me, it really came out in that. Also, in a weird way, came out and I would sacrifice my time, for example. So I'm in marketing, advertising, and sales, and I like a Friday to like clear out, do admin, client work, any podcasting stuff, all the things, kind of catch up day. And if someone wanted to meet on that day, I would just, okay, let's put them on that day instead of say, I'm not available. Can we do it next week? Is it urgent? I would just automatically put them in. And it's kind of fear of loss, right? That I need to do it now because I might need that client. I think that it falls into scarcity mindset. What do you think?
Oh yeah, absolutely. When we price ourselves, when you're a business owner, mainly a solopreneur, right? Because you're making all the decisions yourself, but you're thinking, what could that client afford? Or what are other people charging? And I go through a process with my clients who are business owners about figuring out like what is the life you want to lead and what do you need to make to do that? And how are you going to fit that in? So we do like a backwards process, like, start with the end in mind rather than just like this is what I'm going to charge. But it's interesting that you said that you brought that up because when I started my coaching business, I stepped back from financial planning at that time to start the coaching business because I wanted to serve all the versions of me I once was and I wanted to charge less, but I added in public speaking. And so I do public speaking and I get paid for that. And that's what makes up for the difference. So I am able to serve the people that in that sense where they can afford me because the people that I wanted to serve weren't the people who were going to pay me $10,000 a year to do a financial plan for them, right? So doing coaching, I'm able to charge hourly, I'm able to charge less because I'm not building plans behind the scenes. I'm able to charge less and provide that same type of service and education to them than, but I supplement my income with something else that will create the life that I want. Now, that being
And that's
said,
related. And
yeah,
that's related to what
yeah,
you
that's
do.
related.
And it's related to the help part too, because you talk about this, which is educational to the people that you speak with. So I think that's fantastic.
Yeah. And that being said, another way it shows up is discounting your prices, right? So you set your
Mhm.
price and then someone comes in and says, "Oh, I can't afford that." Like, that's the thing that's stopping me. And so you change your price. And I actually just did this. So I didn't
Good.
listen to my own advice, but I caught myself. So this person said, "I can't afford it." And I really wanted to help her. Like she needed help and I wanted to help her. And so I said, "Okay, I'll discount it. Like we'll do a couple of sessions at the discounted rate, get you on your feet, whatever." And then so I had to create this coupon code in order for her to get through my system with the discount rate. And I was on with support to try to get it into my system and I couldn't figure out why I couldn't have this coupon code. And finally support said your thing is not set up the way that it would be because I had to set it up differently for other reasons, but And I was like, "Okay, this is my sign. This is the universe telling me that I need to listen to my own darn advice and not discount my services." So I just had to
It's
send this person a note that said like, "Hey, this isn't wish you the best. Here's your top things based on our short conversation that you need to work on, but I can't move forward with with this because it's not fitting into my system." So it's actually taking me longer now. I've charged you less. I'm going to charge you less, and now it's going to take me longer because it's not flowing through the system that I set up. And I was like, "This is not." So I basically said, "No, I can't. I can't help you." But it's funny because I tell my clients all the time, like, "Don't do that." But I just did it.
right. And we all fall kind of back into it, whether it's because we want to help or because as women we're supposed we get so conditioned to okay, I'm going to make this work for everyone. I don't want any conflict. And one of the things that I've done and that I will often recommend for a client is it's okay if you have someone you want to help. Do one a quarter. Call it a grant. I do a grant. I help 4 people. I give a very great big discount for them and it will fill up and people will wait for you and it builds this kind of demand thing too. But then because you've set that boundary, you won't, it's like a rule that's there now and you have a way that you can help them and it's specific and have a little form that they fill out. Then you can choose which one you want to
Yeah.
help that quarter. So it still sometimes feels yucky when you feel like you can't do it, but it is so important to maintain that price and not discount it, not compete with the low cost provider because anytime you feel yourself forcing it, you got to stop and you recognizing it is so important. So I want to also dive into how the money messages we absorbed as children quietly influence the decisions we make for our business and ourselves as adults. You touched on that earlier with living paycheck to paycheck, and you get into this whole thing and you say that to yourself over and over, and now look what you're doing. But how does it do it? What does it look like in the real world to somebody that's never heard about what we're talking about?
For me, it looked like and a lot of my clients too, it looked like starting out paycheck to paycheck, being in survival mode as a teen mom. And then over time, as my life grew and evolved, I never really got out of that. So I never got to a point where I was switching the mode to saving, right? I just had lifestyle creep. Every time I would make more, I would up my lifestyle. Because I started so low, I was in the mode of like, I need to improve my life. I need to provide a better life. I need to, all these things that I needed to do. And at no point did I stop and say, okay, I need to bring, now that I'm at a livable level, I need to, balance myself out and start living not living within my means because I was living within my means. I wasn't going into debt, but I wasn't saving. I didn't have an emergency fund. I wasn't saving for my future. Like, I just think that I was just in that go, go, go mode, like improve your life, that I never took a step back. And that happens a lot. And I think especially with Gen X women, we are the most generationally the ones who did that, right? And I'm not just saying women, I guess Gen X in general, but always kind of lived that way. I think younger people now are starting to get involved with finances. I mean, they have a lot more information at their fingertips than we ever did. So they have information there. And if they want it, they can find it. They have resources of all kinds that we didn't have. So I think that it starts that way. It starts from something that you've lived or has happened to you. It could be later in life that it happens to you. You could be in a relationship where somebody else has control of money and you've lost control of money. It could be you were in a relationship with somebody where you had control of the money, but they were not going along with your plan and creating financial havoc for you. There's a lot of different things that could happen that would create, mindset of scarcity and fear around money.
And just losing your job, switching, having that happen multiple times, having loss of income multiple times, and now you're afraid you will fall into fight or flight and you're prepped for all of those things. And I can notice it in the words that I use sometimes. I need to do this or need using those words coming from a place of lack and having to just remind myself every day I have everything that I need. I have everything that I need. And those messages can really help. How do you incorporate that kind of self talk when you have a client that's really struggling?
A lot of what I do is I'm like a success coach too. So there's this fine line between saying like you have enough, but yet you want to strive for more. The conversations that I have are like having them be content and understand where they are, but also understand where they need to go and what they need to do to be financially secure as they go. So there's
Right.
mindset and there's strategy, and they have to work together.
I have found that to be true as well. It's always about I have all the money I need to meet my goals. My goals are something different, right? They're what I'm striving for, and I have all the money I need to meet all of those goals. Those kinds of reframes help me get out of that scarcity mindset. But I'll be honest, it creeps in and hits you when, just like for you, when you're not ready for it and you realize, look what I'm doing. I'm doing the same thing that I know I shouldn't do. So falling back into those old money stories and cycles, how how do we recognize really that we're doing that? So you and I recognize it because we've been working on it for a while. But how do if someone's just starting to kind of figure it out, what are some ways that should trigger them into seeing, okay, this is a place of scarcity?
Well, if you take my story of discounting this client and then me trying to figure out how to input the discount, that was something where I was like, okay, this is the universe telling me like because it's creating so much more work for me. And the idea is that if you're going to discount something, it should be less work for you if you're going to do it.
Right.
So
It
to me, it was
never
just like
is though. It
I know.
never
It never
is.
is. So, it was that wake-up call that just reminded me that, you charge what you charge because that's what you're worth, and I'm already set up to be less expensive than I would be wearing a different hat. So, there was that. But also, I think a lot of it is just recognizing your emotions around things and the decisions and when you're making those decisions financially, right? So, when you're deciding like you're taking a job and it's more money or less money. How does that make you feel? And then sometimes it's how do you feel when you're paying your bills? How do you feel when you look at your bank statement? And recognizing those feelings and then trying to reframe them like a negative for a positive. So for instance, if you think about let's say budgeting. Budget sounds like a horrible word. It's so restrictive. It's so like, oh my gosh, like that is budgeting is a place of scarcity. It actually is. So, it's not a place where you wanna be because it's gonna make you think negatively about money. Setting aside money for certain things and looking at it in a positive way and saying, "Hey, I'm setting aside this bucket." For me, I call it my me money for vacation, is setting an intention in a positive thing. It's saying, like, "This money is set aside for that." It's not saying it's a budget, it's saying the money is set that is there for that. So when you're ready, you have it ready to go. Or when you get to that number, then you can book the vacation. It's not about saying I can only spend this much. It's about saying here's the boundary, here's the container for it and this is a good thing. So when I get there, then I can go on that vacation I want. It just reframes it. It's still the same thing. You're still counting the pennies, right? You're still counting them. You're just counting them under a different lens.
Right. Much more empowering for you to think of it as this is my vacation fund and I am happy I'm putting money in there because I'm going to get to go do it and it's going to be fantastic. And keeping that reframe, that's a great idea. I really like that. I use reframing in lots of areas of my life. I'm not as good at it as I should be in the financial world. And I think that's a fantastic tip that I need to take to heart a little bit myself. Why do you think so many capable people still feel behind with money even when they're doing well?
I think it's because they don't know that they're doing things right. They just feel like they're doing things wrong. And I think the reason they feel like they're doing things wrong is because everything seems so restrictive. And there's all these things where everybody's telling us we should be doing this, we should be doing that, you should be doing this. And so there's all this shame like, "Oh my god, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that either. I'm not doing that. I didn't do that. That didn't work for me." So there's all this shame behind it. It creates this whole anxiety and scarcity because they feel like they're just doing it all wrong instead of just understanding that, okay, this is the way I interact with money. And that didn't work for me because I understand how that didn't work for me. And then how can I make that work for me? How can my person be intertwined with the strategy, right? So if I'm a person who let's talk about the budget. If I'm a person who really likes security, I'm a security seeker and I want to know that everything's going to be okay. I probably want that spreadsheet budget. I want to know where everything is going. And that can work for me. But if I'm a free spender, I love giving, I love taking people out, I love spending money on myself, I love doing things, whatever. That restrictive spreadsheet is I'm gonna fail. There's no
It's
way I'm gonna
invisible. Yeah.
succeed at that.
I'm never gonna look at it. It's gonna make
I'm
me feel
never
like
gonna do it.
crap.
So you have to find a framework. That framework's not gonna work for everyone. It's gonna work for some people and not for others. So when we talk about like, oh, you should do a budget. Oh, you should look at your cash flow. Oh, you should look at your net worth. Yes, you should do the cash flow and the net worth, maybe the budget. It depends. But when you understand who you are and you naturally and you put frameworks that are harmonious with you and your money, that's when it works.
Yes, and it sends all the right signals out to the universe that I'm great with money, send me more of it. I'm doing all the good things. When you're confident, things are just always easier. They come easier. Part of it's your mindset, but part of it is they just do. Tell us a little bit about this financial stress that leaders face in business. Sometimes it fills over and spills over into our personal life, but also back into our business life for entrepreneurs. Those same money issues that you think about as a person, those are the same when you have a business as well. And that can be very difficult. Can we talk a little bit about how that translates into entrepreneurism and business leadership?
Yeah. With entrepreneurism, you can have two different money personalities. You can have your personal money personality and you can have your business money personality. For instance, I myself am a saver in my personal life. Meaning that I feel guilty when I spend money. That doesn't mean I'm necessarily saving as much as I should be saving. It just means that I feel guilty if I'm spending because I feel like I should be saving, and it creates this whole cycle for me here. But in my business, I'm like, you got to spend money to make money, go big or go home. I want to do this. I want to do that. I want to, want to do all the things. So I'm
The
more of a
perfect
risk.
marketing client.
Yeah, I'm more of a risk taker when it comes to my business. So complete different money mindsets, business versus personal. And then how do they work together, right? Because when I started my business, I knew that I had to not look at my personal finances. I was just said like I'm going to normally I track everything like cuz that's who I am. I track everything. But I said to myself like I need to just put that aside and not look at it because I'm going to go backwards and I'm gonna freak out and I'm gonna have that feeling if I'm looking at it. I'm like, I just need to not look at it. I'm gonna give myself, a year to just do my business. I have a runway. It's not like I have a runway. I know what my runway is. I'm gonna do my business. I'm gonna spend the money. I'm not gonna look at it, what it looks like personally, and I'm just gonna do it. Because I knew that if I was looking at it, that I would not be able to put my full positive self into the business. So I'd be like, "Oh my god, I'm going backwards." But I knew I was gonna be.
But that is fantastic, that self-realization to know not to do that. Most people, I think, are gonna struggle with being able to say, "I know better than to look at that." Other than there being avoidance, like, I don't look at a lot of stuff, but I'm avoiding it too, and that's kind of scarcity mindset, avoiding looking at something because it makes you feel uncomfortable, avoiding saving, avoiding investing. That can be scarcity mindset as well, correct?
Yeah, a lot of people are avoiders and they avoid for a reason. That reason could be that they had some mishaps with money before And so it's not a good feeling to look at it. It could be their parents always argued about money. It could be a lot of different things why they avoid looking at it. It's too complicated. It seems like too much work. I'm so far behind that there's no point. Like there's a million reasons why somebody could be an avoider. I just purposely made myself an avoider. And
It's
that's the
that Gen
thing.
X, right? If we work hard enough, there's nothing that we can't do. And so it helps us like, okay, I'm going to work on this. I'm going to, I
Yeah.
mean, that's not a really sustainable pace as Gen X can go, but I can see that too being our generation.
Yeah. Absolutely. And the idea is that because I'm a self-aware to that extent, right? I'm not saying I'm fully 100% self-aware because nobody is, but I was self-aware enough to say, like, I know I need to change my habit right now in order to get through this phase. And so I think if you're in a place of scarcity and you're realizing that you're there, that's when you start being introspective. For a long time, I didn't know I was in a place of scarcity. For instance, I worked in jobs that paid very little, and I didn't realize that I was worth so much more because this is what the job pays, this is what I'm getting paid. And I finally one day just woke up and was like, I'm worth a lot more than this. And what does the market out there look like? And I had said to the people that I was working for at the time, like, this is where I'm at. Like, I feel like I should be making more money now. And they were like, if you want to go find another job, go right ahead. And I was like, okay, like put time on the schedule to go interview. And I was like, okay, well, this is very eye opening because clearly
Right?
there's
I mean,
more going on here. Like, and so, I mean, I went out, I tripled my income in one move.
yeah, just by being aware, we get so caught up in, well, this is what I'm worth because this is what I'm getting. This,
Yeah.
right? And we kind of just get in that rut, I think. And it's sometimes difficult to get out of it. But boy, one choice and you went, oh my gosh, like proof of
Yeah.
concept for you.
But I think the idea behind it too, which maybe I didn't make absolutely clear, was that I had the scarcity mindset, but the people that I was working with also had it. And so I actually ended up making more money than them. So it's like I was working for them and I was saying like, gosh, this isn't enough. And in their frame of reference, they were like, well, this is what we make. So that's what you should be making. And if you think you can make more, go right ahead. And then I went out and I actually made more than them. It was just this whole thing where it's like I was in scarcity, but so were they. And so that
You
was
were
like
living in a, they have a whole scarcity bubble happening at where they were
exactly.
too, right?
Exactly. So it was, I don't know, it's just so interesting when, hindsight, right? You look back. I don't even know that it's 2020 in this case, like that I see it completely for what it was, but it certainly is eye opening to look back and think of it, now that I have more knowledge under my belt about it and just be like, wow, it wasn't just me, it was the whole environment that I was in.
Right. And I think as leaders, that kind of comes from the top down in a business. So you were working somewhere, right? And there's very much now the very top decisions are made at a very high level. And then everybody else has to absorb those decisions, often financial, that lead to layoffs and all kinds of things. And so that scarcity mindset, everybody kind of is walking around afraid of AI taking jobs and layoffs with the government layoffs and all of that at the beginning of 2025 and that kind of scarcity. Boy, if leaders feel it, their employees feel it from them. And now we're all living in it and don't even realize it. So
Yeah. Yeah. Have you ever heard the story about the fleas in the jar?
I don't think so. Please
Okay,
tell
so if
us.
you apparently now I've never tried this, so I don't know that it's true. I think it is, but apparently if you put fleas, fleas jump really high, but if you put them in a jar and you put the lid on, they hit the lid. So they just learn that they can only go to the lid. Then you take the lid off and the fleas still don't get out of the jar because they only jump as high as the lid because they've trained themselves that they can only go that high. And I've often said to people, I feel like I was always the flea that said, "Come on, guys, we can get out of the jar. Let's go. Let's get higher." And everybody else was like, "No, get back down in the jar." And I lived a lot of my life feeling that way. And you probably, as a marketing person, you probably know what I'm talking about. But
Mm,
I feel like I lived a lot of my life that way. And I think that actually is kind of the it explains I never thought about that. It actually explains the scarcity mindset, but I think it does.
I think it does too. And I think we, just as a people and a society, we're all kind of living in this scarcity and we've forgotten that we don't have to. Right? That's such a great
Exactly.
lesson, not just for our financial life, but life in general. If you feel like you're meant for more, you probably are. Just the fact
Yeah.
that you're thinking and feeling it. So it's a great lesson to understand that whether it's financial or not, it may just be in somebody's feel like I could do so much more. This job isn't challenging me. I feel lack like I'm
Yeah.
missing something, then boy, that's a great time to look inward and figure out your next steps because you likely are meant for more. I want to also, I guess we're coming to the end already, all in this topic that I'm learning so much and so many good tools to keep myself out of scarcity. It's so hard. I f how we just I always say backslide like a naughty Baptist, and I know I shouldn't say that, but I feel like that's what I'm doing sometimes. If
Absolutely. And it's an ongoing thing. It's not like you just, oh, like I overcame it and then everything's good. No, you're constantly working on it. It's like it's always going to show back up. Like I just said, like I just literally had offered this discount to this client. And I'm like, I tell my clients all the time, do not do that. And here I am doing it.
Right? I don't know what causes it, but I know that practice and intention in all things in life make us stronger. Look at Steph Curry shooting all of those shots and free throws when he's the greatest and he still goes to practice and practices every day so that he can be better. So I think all of that is good, and we can't be discouraged when we have our moments of scarcity because we can talk ourselves right out of them. And on that note, if someone listening is recognizing themselves in this conversation, and I know that they are, someone who feels capable but still has anxiety over or even shame about money, I think a lot of that is shame. They feel regret and guilty if they spend something. What is one shift in thinking that can help them begin making decisions on the positive side and instead of from fear?
Unshift in thinking. I would say reframe things into a positive way, right? So whatever that fear, whatever that negative thing is that you're thinking, reframe it. If you're like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so bad with money." No, you know what? I'm good with money, but I've had these bad experiences that are behind me now and I'm moving forward, right? So just reframing anything negative to a positive, if you do need to take a job that's that just to get a job to survive, because there's a lot of people out there right now that got laid off and have been looking for a job for a year. You know what? This is this opportunity in my life to do this other thing. And, it's going to be a learning period. I'm going to discover some part of myself during this phase that I wouldn't have discovered otherwise by taking this little detour, right? So always just look at the positive side of things, and especially when it comes to money, because you want to keep that good relationship there.
Well, like all great conversations, we've come to the end. And before we wrap up, though, Linda, tell our listeners where they can connect with you and learn more about your business and your podcast, because I'm going to definitely listen so I can learn even more.
Oh, great. Thank you so much. The best place to find me is lindagriz.com, LINDAGRIZ.com. That's my website. And I've got my podcasting info on there, as well as my social media, and pretty much anything else you want to know about me as a speaker, me as a coach, anything. So that's the best place to go.
And we will link to all of Linda's stuff in the show notes. And if this conversation resonated with you, if it challenged how you think about leadership, decision making, or the patterns shaping how you run your business and your scarcity or lack thereof, then my work lives on beyond this podcast in your growth. My work focuses on helping leaders and business owners slow down, recognize patterns influencing their decisions, and build sustainable growth grounded in trust, human connection, and strong sales culture. You can learn more about that work at hexagonmedia.net. And if you're interested in going deeper, I have a free resource that I will also connect to in the show notes so you can download it for free. And it is called the Human Sales Playbook. It has lots of exercises and information about learning how to sell with connection instead of being salesy. If you enjoyed today's conversation, make sure to follow Deals with Heels so you don't miss another conversation ahead. Linda, thank you so much for joining us. It was great to have you on the show.
Well, thank you. And thank you for having me.
Until next time, stand strong in your power, especially when it gets uncomfortable. See you next week.